Put your hand on your interior wall right now. Not the window, not the door frame. The flat wall between your living room and the outside. Feel it. If that wall is cold to the touch, your heating system is not heating your house. It is heating the outdoors. Every BTU your furnace produces travels through that wall and disappears into the winter air outside while you write a check to the gas company every 30 days. 2 miles down the road, there is a farmhouse built in 1914. No central heating worth mentioning. I put my hand on the interior wall of that house last January when it was 7 degrees outside. It was warm. Not cool, not neutral. Warm, like it had been sitting in the sun. The wall was 12 inches thick, not insulated with anything you can buy at a hardware store. Packed with a material that costs $5 for enough to treat an entire room, and that every farmhouse in America used before the fiberglass insulation industry quietly replaced it in the 1950s. If you already own a house, stay with me, because this is not a gut-your-walls renovation. This is a weekend treatment that works from the outside in any existing home without touching a single interior surface. No permits, no contractor, no drywall dust. I am going to show you exactly what that material is. I am going to show you the entry from a 1944 farmhouse construction manual published by the University of Wisconsin Extension Service that documented this wall treatment in over 28,000 rural homes across 6 northern states. And I am going to show you why the American insulation industry, which generates over $50 billion every year, has spent 70 years making sure you tear out your walls and pay a contractor instead of spending $5 on a Saturday afternoon. This is not spray foam. This is not blown cellulose from an insulation truck. This is raw beeswax mixed with linseed oil, 2 ingredients that penetrate wood fiber, seal air gaps, and create a thermal barrier inside the wall material itself rather than sitting behind it in a cavity. A block of raw beeswax costs $3 at any farm supply store. A pint of raw linseed oil costs $2, $5 total, enough to treat 300 square feet of exterior wall surface. The first time I visited that farmhouse near Madison, Wisconsin, I asked the man who owned it, a farmer named Otto Kellner, how his walls stayed warm. He was 72 years old. He said his father had treated every exterior wall with beeswax and linseed oil in 1938. He said the treatment had been redone once since then. In 1971, 2 treatments in 86 years, and those walls have held heat through Wisconsin winters every year since. I stood outside that house with a thermal imaging camera I had borrowed from a contractor friend. Every house on that road showed heat bleeding through the walls in bright orange on the screen. Otto Kellner's house showed almost nothing. The walls were holding. The fiberglass insulation industry quietly replaced this treatment from mainstream building recommendations sometime around 1953. Before 1953, beeswax and linseed oil wall treatments appeared in every farmhouse construction guide published in northern states. After 1953, the guides recommended fiberglass batting installed by professionals in wall cavities that required gutting the interior. Fiberglass batting requires a contractor. It requires permits in most jurisdictions. It requires replacing every 25 to 30 years as it settles and loses R value. And it generates a new sale every generation. The American insulation industry today generates over $50 billion annually. A $5 treatment applied to the outside of any wall that lasts decades and never settles is not a product that industry has any incentive to sell you. Here is what the chemistry actually looks like. Raw linseed oil is a drying oil. When it penetrates wood fiber, it polymerizes, hardens inside the cell walls of the wood itself, filling the microscopic channels where cold air travels through the material. Beeswax added to the linseed oil raises the melting point of the final compound and creates a hydrophobic surface that repels water vapor before it can enter the wall. Think of it like this. Your exterior wall is a sponge. Cold air moves through it the same way water moves through a sponge. Linseed oil fills the sponge from the inside. Beeswax seals the surface. Cold air finds no path through. The 1944 University of Wisconsin manual documented this. Page 11 describes what the manual calls the hot penetrating treatment. Here is the exact process. Melt 3 parts raw beeswax into 2 parts raw linseed oil in a metal pot over low heat. Heat to 160 degrees Fahrenheit, warm but not smoking. The heat thins both compounds and allows them to penetrate deeply into wood fiber on contact. Apply immediately to any dry exterior wood surface with a stiff, natural bristle brush. Work in the direction of the grain. Do not wipe off the excess. Let the wood drink. The wood will absorb the mixture visibly. You will see it disappear into the surface as you work. Apply a second coat within 24 hours, while the first is still slightly tacky. Allow to cure for 72 hours. That is the entire treatment. The 1944 manual documented the results in 28,000 homes across 6 northern states. Average reduction in heat loss through treated exterior walls, 41%. Otto Kellner's thermal camera reading confirmed what the 1944 manual documented 80 years earlier. His walls were holding 40% more heat than his neighbors. From a $5 treatment his father applied in 1938. Now here is the part most people miss. And it extends the system to every drafty window frame, door frame, and corner joint in your house. The same beeswax and linseed oil compound applied as a liquid caulk into any visible gap around window frames, door frames, baseboards, and exterior wall penetrations seals those gaps more effectively than any silicone caulk on the market. It remains flexible through temperature cycles. It never cracks or pulls away from the joint. And it can be reapplied at any time with a brush without removing the old layer. Otto Kellner showed me the original window frame caulking his father applied in 1938. Still flexible, still sealed. 86 years later. A tube of modern silicone caulk lasts 5 to 7 years before it cracks. Why does the average American household spend over $1,200 a year heating a house whose walls are bleeding that heat directly outside every single night? Why did the University of Wisconsin document a 41% reduction in wall heat loss in 1944, and then quietly allow that documentation to disappear from public access by 1960? Why does the American insulation industry send contractors to gut your walls for $20,000 when $5 of beeswax and linseed oil does 40% of the same job from the outside in a single afternoon? You already know the answer. The beeswax treatment did not fail. It was not replaced by something better. It was quietly buried at exactly the moment that a $50 billion industry needed customers who would tear out their walls and pay professionals instead of spending $5 on a Saturday. Otto Kellner's father treated those walls in 1938. Otto has never gutted a wall. His son will not gut a wall either. I do not know what brought you here today. Maybe you just got an insulation quote that made you put the phone down. Maybe your heating bill crossed a number this winter that you could not justify. Maybe you have been feeling cold walls in your house for years, and you started wondering if there was an answer that did not cost $20,000. Maybe you are building the kind of household that treats things properly once instead of replacing them on a schedule someone else designed. It does not matter which one. $3 of raw beeswax, $2 of raw linseed oil, one Saturday afternoon, and the same penetrating compound that has been holding heat inside Otto Kellner's walls through Wisconsin winters since 1938. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. You find a block of raw beeswax this weekend. You mix it with linseed oil. You heat it on the stove, and you start recovering something that belonged to your family long before any insulation contractor had your address on a billing statement. Now I want to ask you something specific, and I want you to actually answer in the comments. Put your hand on your exterior wall right now. Is it cold, cool, or warm? Tell me how old your house is and what material the exterior is made from. I read every single comment. Take it and use it. See you next time. Next video. I am going to show you the single material every American household kept beside the kitchen stove before 1940 that eliminates every cleaning product under your sink, preserves food, treats wounds, and kills mold on contact. It costs $3, and the cleaning products industry has been quietly keeping it off your shopping list since 1950. See you then.